You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, I'm Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Yes, you know it's officially thechrisvossshow.com because we hired an opera singer last week to do that part of the show that I've been doing for 15 years, and I'm just kind of tired of doing it, and I think she does it much better. Write me and let me know what you guys think. Maybe you miss the horrible sounding voice that I have. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just think it's funny, and you'll find at the end of every show too, we tag it on the end there. I don't know, maybe we'll invite the opera singer to do more parts of the show. Maybe we should invite guests to come on, and they have to sing in operatic format, as I do, in asking the questions. And it's just like a giant opera. Or maybe it'll be like a ballet. Anyway, guys, well, thanks for coming by the show. The Chris Voss Show family. The family loves you but doesn't judge you, at least not as harshly as your mother-in-law. As always, help us out on the show. We beg you. We plead you. We guilt you. We shame you. Go to iTunes, give us a 5-star review. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and Chris Voss1 on TikTok. For 15 years, we bring you the billionest people on the planet, the billionaires, the CEOs, the Pulitzer Prize winners, the astronauts, the people who do White House advisories. And always, you're going to learn great stories, great lessons in life, and expand your mind. And you're going to get what they call the Chris Voss glow. Not everyone can have a Chris Voss glow. It's a special glow. And those who listen are the only ones who can experience the glow. Tom Fox is a compliance evangelist, and he joins us today on the show. He's going to be talking to us about compliance, business, regulatory stuff, all that sort of thing you need to know to keep yourself out of trouble, because you don't want to get into the trouble. We've all seen that movie. Thomas R. Fox is the compliance evangelist. He is literally the guy who wrote the book on compliance with the international compliance bestseller, The Compliance Handbook, 3rd edition, which was released by LexisNexis in May 2022. He's authored 25 other books on business leadership, compliance and ethics, and corporate governance, including the international bestsellers Lessons Learned from Compliance and Ethics and Best Practices under the FCPA and Bribery Act, as well as his award-winning series Fox on Compliance. He leads the social media discussion on compliance with his award-winning blog and his Voice of Compliance, having founded the award-winning Compliance Podcast Network and hosting or producing multiple award-winning podcast. He's an executive leader at the C-Suite Network and the world's most trusted network of C-Suite leaders. And he joins us on the show now to make sure that we're in compliance. Welcome to the show, Tom. How are you?
Great, Chris. Thrilled to be here with you today.
Thrilled to have you as well. Give us your .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs and stalk you?
The CompliancePodcastNetwork.net. I'm on LinkedIn at Thomas R. Fox, and I have a second podcast network, the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network.com.
Where do you get time for all these podcasts, Tom? Tom, for all these podcasts?
I work 12 to 15 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Holy crap. And I thought I was doing a lot at 4 shows a day. That's pretty freaking amazing. And how many podcasts do you have on the Compliance Podcast Network?
So there's 65 total, 50 of which are mine.
Wow. That is a lot of work going on. I'm tired already. I might have to go take a nap. So, Tom, give us a 30,000 overview, in your words, of everything you do and how you do it. I mean, not exactly, down to detail of how you do it, just a summary, if you would.
So from the compliance angle, I've been in this space. I'm a lawyer by professional training for about 15 years. I've been a chief compliance officer. I've been a general counsel. In 2010, I went out on my own, and I wanted to be the nuts and bolts guy to help companies build compliance programs. I started blogging. That led to podcasting, and it led to finding a compliance podcast network. It blew up during the pandemic, and since that time, I've been pretty much full-time podcasting.
There you go. Now you have a whole array of what looks like, I think, coffee mugs on the shelves behind you. Is that correct?
That's correct. Every time I start a new podcast, I commemorate it with a coffee mug.
So these are all your coffee mugs. There you go. So interesting. You may need to buy some more walls and shelf space there, the way you're going, if you keep it up at this pace. So tell us about what your journey is. How did you become a lawyer? How did you get into compliance? And let's also set a foundation for what we mean by compliance. What does compliance mean exactly in the terms of business that you use it for?
Compliance is generally recognized as legal or regulatory compliance with a law or set of regulations. I started off in anti-bribery, anti-corruption. There's one U.S. law that prevents U.S. companies from engaging in bribery outside the United States called the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. So I started off helping companies put compliance programs in place to comply with that law. That expanded out into anti-money laundering and export control and trade sanctions, but I'm primarily known as an anti-corruption specialist.
Anti-corruption. So do you work with large, Fortune 500 companies, or just everybody down and in between? Does everybody need to be worried about being in compliance these days?
Anyone who does business internationally has to comply with this law. So if you're a $50 million or $10 million company, but you sell something overseas, you have to comply with the law. If you're Walmart, the world's largest commercial retailer, you have to comply with this law. So it's a wide variety of companies, generally those doing business outside the United States as well as inside the U.S.
So compliance with federal laws, regulations, trade, I suppose, the FTC, things along those lines.
And the Department of Justice.
The Department of Justice. We've had some people from them on, and some they used to, and attorneys that work and stuff like that. So yeah, we've met those people, and they're pretty cool. I see we just had some FBI people on, things like that. So tell us your journey. What made you interested in compliance? What got you interested in becoming an attorney and kind of specializing in this field?
So I became an attorney a very long time ago. I went to law school, came out. I was a trial lawyer for 25 years, so I'm a recovering trial lawyer. I left that, went into the in-house world, and started off with a large energy company in Houston, where I lived for 40 years. Then I became a general counsel at another energy company. They violated that law. I referenced the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. At that point, I learned about compliance. So this was 2007. The company got sold, and my job went away. So I was at that point 50, and I decided what I really wanted to do with my life was race bicycles. So I went on this great adventure of bicycle racing, 20 and 40 Ks, until one Saturday after Thanksgiving in 2009, I got taken out by a Hummer on a train ride.
No.
That ended my cycling career. And when I got enough energy to get on my walker and toddle into my office at home after a few months of rehabilitation, I decided I really enjoyed building compliance programs inside corporations. So I decided to be the nuts and bolts guy. And at that point, I knew nothing about social media. So I had my daughter set up a Facebook account, LinkedIn account, started with Twitter. I had no work. I had no clients. And the only thing I had on my hands was time. So I started exploring social media, started blogging. I'd always written a lot as a lawyer. So that led to developing clients internationally, literally out of my house, way before work from home. And I couldn't leave the house. I couldn't go to a meeting. I couldn't go have a dinner. I couldn't go to a conference. So I learned how to do all of that literally out of your house. And that's how it all started. And I grew from there.
There you go.
I started, the podcasting just naturally came out of blogging. I started podcasting in 2012.
There you go. It's an interesting business. It's a lot of fun. And a lot of people came out of COVID realigning their interests and finding what their flavor is and stuff like that. Now you've recruited a whole mess of people to your podcast network. How does that work?
So I founded the network in 2017. In 2019, I decided I had to either get serious about it or move it to hobby status. So I quit practicing law, quit practicing compliance, bought all the cool toys, built this huge network. And at the end of the year, I'd made about $10,000. And I thought, well, that was an interesting experiment. Guess I have to go back to practicing law. So I started doing that again in 2019 or 2020. And then that worked till they shut the country down in March. And then what happened was literally on May 15th of that year, every product provider in my space called me with the same question, which was, how long to get access to your network? Because almost all marketing in the compliance world was done in person, trade shows, conferences, breakfast roundtables, in-person events, et cetera. And no one could do that. And by that time, I had the largest social media presence in compliance. And because of the work I'd done in 2019, where I made all of that $10,000, my answer was 24 hours. It was just simply a plug and play. Give me your stuff, I'll put it up. And that my little world blew up. And since that time, I've focused almost exclusively on podcasting, trying to consolidate the explosion of growth I had in 2020 and see where I can take my network.
All right. So you talk about compliance as a business generator. What does that mean? And evidently, compliance can help make your business more efficient and more profitable. So if I'm a owner of a company out there, and I really haven't delved much into compliance, tell me how this whole thing becomes a better business generator and more efficient, more profitable, please.
Sure. Unfortunately, compliance is seen as generally Dr. No inhabiting the land of no, the business of, or the department of non-business. That view is incorrect in my opinion. Properly seen, compliance is a business process. And if it's a business process, it can be managed, it can be studied, it can be monitored, and it can be improved. So I advocate that effective compliance equates to more efficient business processes. That leads to greater ROI and greater profitability. The controls every company has in place, literally every company, are financial controls largely. How do you manage your money? How do you manage your income? How do you manage your outgo? How do you manage every expense? Well, compliance is basically financial controls. And if you put robust financial controls in place, you're always going to have a better run company. And that means you're going to be more efficient. Compliance is not there, or the best analogy I can give you is you don't have brakes on a car to go slow. You have brakes on a car so you can go fast. Well, the same with compliance. Compliance allows you to take on more risk because it manages that risk. And if you manage the risk, you can pivot, you can turn, you can accelerate in ways your competitors cannot do so.
There you go. So in looking over some of the things, it looks like most of the podcasts that are on your network are compliance based.
Well, they're compliance related, but I have one switch that's on and off. If I have an idea, I start a new podcast. I don't have a dimmer switch. I don't have a regulator or moderator. So you can slice and dice compliance in any way you can think. So Star Trek in compliance, sports in compliance, Star Wars in compliance, the MCU in compliance, great women in compliance, roundtables in compliance, compliance into the weeds, daily compliance, weekly compliance, nuts and bolts compliance, 31 days to a better compliance program. Those are some of the shows that I have. And
sounds like my first 5 marriages. Lots of compliance. Wash the dishes before you put them in the dishwasher, that sort of thing. Just a joke there, people. So you talk about culture, and when you talk about culture, do you mean like compliance culture or just culture in a business?
Culture in a business, the values in a business. The Department of Justice about 2 years ago finally started saying, guys, it's really about culture. Yes, having a compliance program is important, but it's about your corporate culture. And that means, what are your values? If you talk a good talk and walk a good walk, that's going to go a long way towards making sure you don't violate, or your employees don't violate the law. So it all starts with the tone at the top, but culture is about the values. What are the values of your organization?
You mean we're supposed to have values and ethics and shit now? Is that like
you were supposed to always have those.
What? Note to self: get ethics and values. Delegate that to Joe or Bob. It's always Bob. So this is important. Otherwise, you end up with, I guess, like Enron or FTX or some of these other companies that are so serious.
You name
problems.
the company, Volkswagen, Theranos,
Oh yeah,
Enron, WorldCom.
Yeah,
You name it, they've gone through it.
there you go. And it's pretty ugly PR wise when you muck it up, right?
It's very ugly PR wise. And the thing about PR wise and the reputational damages, if you violate a law like the FCPA, you may pay a fine and penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Companies can deal with fines and penalties because once they know the cost, they can reserve for that cost. They can say, whatever they have to do. But if you have reputational damage, you lose money off the top line, meaning your customers won't buy from you. Other businesses won't do business with you. And that's business you'll never get back. Now you can, pick those customers back up, but for that period of time, that's directly off your top line. You'll never get that money back.
Wow. It makes all the difference in the world. The trustable nature of your business, and of course your employees being able to trust you, being able to trust culture. It's a huge thing in being able to lay a good foundation of culture and everything else. What was the Texas Hill Country Podcast Network? I'm not sure where that question is there, but I'll ask it anyway.
Sure. So I moved to the Texas Hill Country, part of West Texas, which is just that hills, which is very unusual for the state of Texas, about a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And I decided to start a local podcast where I featured people who lived in the Hill Country, and then some other businessmen who had started a financial services podcast because their financial advisors approached me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in starting a network?" And I was, because I wanted to see if there was a viable economic model for a rural podcast. So I live in a town with no TV, no radio, newspaper 3 days a week. The radio's internet, not local. So no local news. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to see, could we bring a local flavor, but more importantly, could we provide a platform for local businesses to advertise on social media locally? And could we help drive their sales? So that's what we're trying to do. We have 15 shows. We have 3,000 subscribers. We have shows about business valuation company, a fellow who helps treat diabetes through exercise, a couple of consultants. And we're trying to show that it's viable in a local market. Typically, a rural or a small podcast network has a big anchor show and everybody else just feeds off of it. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to see, can we have social media marketing for local businesses? And we've been pretty successful at it so far. We've been at it a year and we've won 2 podcast awards already. So just having fun.
There you go. I don't know where this comes out of left field. Yeah, thanks, Adam, I guess. The Chris Voss Show, the best thing since peanut butter and jelly. I don't know. Isn't that an insult to peanut butter and jelly? I don't know.
I hope not.
Are we going to have peanut butter and jelly sponsors? I don't even know where. You got to love our audience. They're awesome. Now, one of the things you talk about is how business has changed forever after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Ukraine. How does that work out? Is that different? We don't have to reanalyze how I do business now?
No, probably not. But for international businesses, it definitely changed. And I picked that date because it seemed to me to bookend the changes that started during the pandemic. So obviously we saw supply chains dry up. We saw regions of the world you couldn't get your products from, or you couldn't ship your products to because of COVID-19. Well, the Russian invasion of Ukraine cut off the United States from Russia and vice versa. So you couldn't do business in Russia. You couldn't sell into Russia, and you couldn't get materials and raw goods out of Russia, whether it be energy products, minerals, anything. And the sanctions increased greatly. So sanctions became much more prevalent. Companies now had to elevate their trade sanction compliance programs as high as other programs, and they had to be much more sensitive to what started during COVID-19, which was the shift in geopolitical risk to things like supply chain, to things like money laundering, to things like export and trade control, and even ESG, You mentioned reputational risk. Well, if you're still doing business in Russia and somebody announces that to the world, there's going to be a backlash.
Note to self, stop doing business in Russia and stop the international arms trading. Okay, I just want to make sure I got that down. I'll pass that to Bob, see if Bob can work on that. I imagine, with international, monetary funds and banks that are locking down money, there's a whole list of Russians that you can't do business with. Note to self, stop doing business with Russian oligarchs and hanging out on their yachts, eh? So there's that.
But see, you can take the flip side of that, because I believe that after the war ends, and it will end at some point, the rebuilding of Ukraine will be the largest construction project literally since the end of World War II. More international money will pour into Ukraine to rebuild it. Ukraine has a terrible reputation for corruption, and all of these agencies that are going to put money in, the World Bank, the United Nations, the IMF, the United States, Western Europe, they're going to demand rigorous compliance controls. So there's going to be a great opportunity for literally U.S. bricklayers to do business in Ukraine, but they're going to have a compliance program in place.
I'm going to go there and start a podcast, the Ukraine Rebuilding Podcast. The women over there are beautiful. They're some of the most beautiful women in the world. In fact, they used to have a huge adoption surrogate business over there because the women were so beautiful and stuff. And that all got interrupted with the Russian thing. But yeah, hopefully that would end soon. It looks like Russia's playing the long game where they're going to see who's going to become president in 2024 and do their gamble. So, they're just going to do like they did in Syria and just stall for time. They seem to be at a point where I don't know why the Ukrainians are pushing. They should just call it a detente and hold on to it. But I don't know. It's not my country. None of my business, I guess. They can do what they want. They're fighting for their liberty, and I can't blame them. God bless them. So you talk about what businesses need to do to prepare for a coming conflict with China. We've certainly seen the sword rattling they've been doing, the different things that their leaders have been doing. They've almost become less capitalistic or, slanted towards capitalism and some of the freedoms they used to have. And it seems like they're just kind of going back to the old Chinese socialist, communist sort of style party. What do you see happening with a potential conflict with China?
So everything I said about Russia, take that about 10 paces further, or maybe even 10x further. China is the largest consumer market in the world. What are you going to do if the conflict raises to the point where China will no longer accept U.S. imports? What if your largest customer is in China? How are you going to replace that customer? I was rather stunned to find the U.S. lumber industry's number one customer is China. Well, that could be a real loss to our U.S. lumber industry. So how do you start thinking about who's going to buy your products? Well, if it's a U.S. lumber industry, and I live in a place, even my little town has a housing crisis.
Yeah.
Why don't we repatriate all that lumber to the United States and build a new set of houses for people who are coming into the workforce now? Give them affordable houses that they can buy the first house that our parents bought, that maybe we bought, that are relatively cheap that you can afford to buy. Things like that. How are you going to get raw materials out of China? The same thing, silicon chips or anything like that. And then China has right now is using slave labor in the Uyghur region of Xinjiang region with Uyghurs, oppressed ethnic minority. There's a U.S. law that prevents you from buying any goods in that region unless you show it didn't come from forced labor. So you have to worry about the forced labor. But it's worse because U.S. businesses have been raided in China. U.S. business executives have been arrested in China. If someone asked me to go to China right now, I'd say, no, thank you. I'm happy to stay right here and do it virtually.
The internet sucks over there, so that's another.
Yeah, and so there's a whole set of problems that U.S. companies when I say problems, I mean risks. How do you manage these risks? What's going to happen if there's a shooting war with Taiwan? Yeah. How bad is that going to be? What happens if they sink a U.S. aircraft carrier? That's 5,000 men and women. what's the reaction of the U.S. public going to be? Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail, and hard-nosed competition is something that certainly the United States can live with. But if it moves to a shooting war, that's a whole different level.
It most definitely. The interesting thing about them is how economically we're tied together with our markets. And so you would think that it would be hard for us to go to war with each other in spite of all the saber rattling. But when you look at what's going on, where they want Taiwan back, when you look at authoritarian rule and how they have to create crises and wars, sometimes to deflect from the poor leadership and poor economic standards, the one China policy has caught up to them. What an idiot thing. Like, I've always wondered about that. Now you see that they're starting to turn into Japan, where they're having a generational fall off. I think they have a really high unemployment rate right now, where the new generation coming out of schools can't get work. And they're all the faking of the GDP they did for 10 or 20 years, building, just stupid stuff everywhere, has finally, it appears, caught up to them. And they may suffer a grand depression. And usually the way authoritarians get out of that is, let's start a war. Look over there. That sort of thing. And of course, they need, like, the economy. They need to find ways to expand the economy. And going after the largest chip maker in the world, in Taiwan, would help corner a market. It would paralyze a lot of things too. And so I think we're trying to move away from it. So I think you're right. It's one of those things you definitely have to look at. And it doesn't seem like, things are improving with China at all.
Well, there's no shooting yet. So maybe, as I said, cooler heads will prevail. I certainly hope so.
There you go. Sounds like my first 5 marriages. There's no shooting yet. So how can compliance become more engaging? Is this something that's fun that a lot of CEOs, a lot of boardrooms, a lot of people like to talk about? Or is it something like to deal with? I came from one of those backgrounds where ask first, it's better to break the rules and then ask for permission later. But that's probably not good when the Justice Department is involved in the United States.
Well, as I tell people, as a teenage boy, I certainly had the view that I would take action now and ask for forgiveness later. As a father of a teenage daughter, my views evolved. On that topic. So I think you can have evolution of your thinking in that. But that's why I try to tell people that properly seen, compliance will not save you money, but make you money. We've had a couple of academic studies have shown that more effective compliance allows you to not only do business more efficiently and better in high risk areas, but it also having the culture. And I'm going to pick up on a word you use. We didn't really discuss trust. If your employees trust you, if they trust management, they'll raise their hand and speak up, not to just say, oh, I saw a legal violation, do something about it. They'll raise their hand and say, I think we can do this better. I think we can have a more efficient process. I think we can have a better product. And they won't be laughed at, and they won't be fired, and they won't be retaliated against. And if you have that kind of trust, that's going to lead to the values we talked about in terms of your overall corporate culture. That's going to improve your compliance and allow you to do business more efficiently and more effectively.
There you go. So you've written a lot of books on compliance. I'm finding on Amazon. There's the compliance handbook. Anybody who wants to maybe familiarize themselves with some of your print works as an author, what books do you recommend? Because you've written a lot.
Well, I'm almost ashamed to admit it, but I will admit my 2 best-selling books are children's books on compliance.
Really?
Yes. Being a compliance officer is awesome, number one. Number 2, speaking up is awesome. And the first book came out in December, right before Christmas 2022. Within a week, it became a bestseller on Amazon's children's books. Within a month, it was my number 1 best-selling book of all time. Go figure. So I would suggest, based on the popular sales, that my children's book series might be a good place to start, because it's designed to explain what a compliance officer does and then why a culture of speak up about the values we talked about and employees having trust to raise their hand and speaking up are so important.
Definitely. And so if you see something, say something. Is that what you mean by speaking up?
Absolutely.
There you go. One thing you talk about in one of your books is anti-bribery leadership. Does this mean I can't grease the wheels by flipping $100 to my Vegas waiter when he gets me in the club or whatever?
Well, that's domestic U.S. Remember, my law that I've been talking about applies outside the United States.
Oh, yeah, they're okay. Note to self, I can still keep doing that.
Yes.
There you go. Well, you got to get in the club somehow, but it's probably not going to work in Ibiza because that might be trouble since it's in international waters. Last time I checked. So, I mean, I know that China has bribery issues. Some other countries do, or you've got to play games with their, how you have the company registered and owned, and some companies. I don't know if China still does it. Does China still do a thing where you have to give part of the company over to them if you want to set up business in China?
Yes, you have to have a Chinese partner in a joint venture, and typically the Chinese partner has 50.1%. Is where many American companies have gotten into trouble.
Yeah, and then I'm sure they have access to all your IP and all your secrets and trademarks and stuff. Lovely.
If you do business in China, they will steal your IP. You just have to accept that. The times I've done business there, we've given them 2 or 3 generations old IP, but it's been a long, 15 years since I've done those sorts of deals. But yes, they will take your IP.
Wow. Oh, they never change. Maybe they'll change someday in the future. Well, Tom, what haven't we touched on about what you do and why it's good for business in the compliance field?
Let me put in a plug for podcasting. If you have a business, start a podcast. There's no downside to starting a podcast. It will highlight you in several different areas. Number one, you'll be able to show that you're a true subject matter expert, whatever your field is. If it's plumbing, if it's bricklaying, if it's anti-corruption, if it's podcasting. If you have a podcast about podcasting, people are going to notice that. But more importantly, you can call or email any person. Say you want to make a sales call, and I want to email you, Chris, about buying something, and I email you and I say, I have Tom Fox, I have widget 123. I'd like to talk to you about it. You may or may not respond. If I email you and say, Chris, I want you to come on my podcast and talk about you, I get 100% acceptance rate. And so you can develop a personal relationship with your customers, with potential customers. And the power of social media, hopefully you're going to take part of this podcast and create social media sharing assets. That's exactly what I do. I create tweets, 60-second videograms for Twitter, and 2-minute videograms for LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. So you get incredible social media marketing engagement through a videogram, which is simply a clip of us talking on a podcast. So you have a huge social media presence that most businesses, certainly small businesses, are not utilizing to the full extent they can. It's the most cost-effective way to do marketing.
Yeah, I know one guy who he has people on. He invites people on to come pitch their business on his podcast, and then after he goes, "How can I help you?" and tries to figure out a way to help people do the thing. And so it's a great handshake, and he does a lot of business over it. I mean, you're right; it really does work and stuff. So,
yeah, one thing, I hate to delve into psychology, but there's something about the audio format of podcast. People listen to you and they trust you more than if you wrote something for them or sent them an email or something, sent them some piece of marketing. And I can't really explain that. I just know more people come up to me as I recognize your voice. I recognize your voice. So it's a huge benefit.
It's probably because I did the audio narration of most of those OnlyFans Pornhub videos, and that's probably why people recognize my voice when they hear me. But that's another story for another time. Yeah, I mean, people come up to me, they run up to me, and they go, thechrisvossshow.com, and you're like, we need to hire an opera singer for that part. Well, Tom, this has been wonderful to have you on the show and very insightful, learning how to do business better, especially when you do a business from an international aspect. Give us your final thoughts and pitch as we go out to the audience. How can they onboard with you? How can they do business with you, et cetera, et cetera?
So I have two ways to get in touch with me on the compliancepodcastnetwork.net. I have SpeakPipe. You can leave me an audio voicemail. You can connect with me in that way. I'm available on LinkedIn. I have to shout out to Podmatch because that's how I met you. Alex Sanfilippo has created a great tool for people who want to be guests or who want to have guests come on their show. So he's really found a niche that all of us have used. I would love if anyone wants to come on and talk about their business. I have a ton of podcasts. I'm always looking for content. So if you want to talk Star Wars, Star Trek, I don't care. I'd love to have you come on my show. And this has been a great way for me to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebs, please.
Compliancepodcastnetwork.net.
There you go.
.com.
Thank you very much for coming on, Tom. We've learned a lot today, and hopefully we may have encouraged a new generation of podcasters. To my audience, be sure to refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com, Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com, Chris Voss, YouTube.com, Chris Voss, and Chris Voss 1 on the Tickety Talkity over there. There's 3 to 4 new shows every weekday, folks. 10 to 15 to 20 a week. I guess there would be 20. They just keep growing out of hand. So make sure you listen to them all. There will be a test on Saturday. And if you don't pass it, we'll make you listen the whole week all over again.
I love it.
Some of you guys do that anyway. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. And we'll see you guys next time.
You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
I'm Voss Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Wow, that sounded beautiful. You guys didn't know I had that good of a voice, huh, when I sing. It sounds pretty normal when I normally don't do it, but then when I sing, it's that operatic soprano type voice that comes out or whatever that is. I don't know. I flunked second grade, folks. No, that's actually an opera singer we hired last week to come do the soundbite for the show because I'm sick of doing it after 15 years. And I love you guys as much as possible. I love you when you come up to me and go, thechrisvossshow.com. But now you can sing it in operatic voice. And if not, I'll just ignore you, which is pretty much what I do anyway. But we love you. The Chris Voss Show is a family that loves you and doesn't judge you, all the way from Chris Voss Landia, the Chris Voss Studios, wherever the hell that is. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. They won't give me directions or let me know where the secret location is. But they just blindfold me and drive me here. But guys, we, for 15 years, have been bringing you the smartest minds, the most brilliant people, the billionaires, the CEOs, the inventors, the entrepreneurs, the Pulitzer Prize winners, the astronauts, the people who advise presidents, and some idiot with a mic who's me. So there's that. We do all that. We have a gentleman on the show, Michael C. Hutchison. He's a doctor. So we're going to be doing a lot of doctor. We're going to play doctor on the show. How's that sound? I don't know about that. I don't think he's in for that. I think it's in his rider. He won't. He is the CEO and inventor of a device that's called PowerPlus Mouthguard. And we're going to get into it and find out maybe how it can make your life better, improve your life, or maybe someone you know. Dr. Michael Hutchison is a practicing dentist in Traverse City, Michigan. He's been in private practice, specializing in cosmetic and neuromuscular dentistry since 1987. In 2001, he was one of the first 125 dentists worldwide awarded accreditation in the Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. He is the inventor of the PowerPlus Mouthguard that has revolutionized mouthguard technology in the 21st century. He discovered the relationship of physiologic jaw positioning to increase athletic performance and reduce the G-force impact found in concussions. He was awarded a medical utility patent for all of North America, Canada, and Mexico in 2015. He didn't get Guam for some reason. I don't know why, but he's probably working on that. He continues to research. Guam's part of America, dummy. He continues to, I don't know. I just pulled it out of my ass. It was it was there. He continues to research concussion safety and leading the way to help athletes play better and safer, which disappoints my 1970 Raiders at all times because we love giving concussions. But that's another story. Welcome to the show, Dr. Hutchison. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. Appreciate it.
There you go. I'm a Raiders fan. If you can't tell, I kind of miss the days where people would kind of intend to hurt each other on the field. But what are you going to do? So give us a .com. Where can we find out about the PowerPlus Mouthguard on the web?
You can go to PowerPlusMouthguard.com and you can find anything that you need to know about it. And you can also order one there and it'll come to you in a couple of days.
There you go. And you invented this out of your experience as a doctor. Give us like a 30,000 overview of what it is and kind of give us a description, if you would, for, most people are going to listen to the podcast on audio. So if you give us like a detailed explanation of a 3D diagram that people can image in their head, that'd be great. Take a half an hour if you want.
Of course. So if you look at mouth guards that are out there, did you ever wear a mouth guard when you were?
I think in football
younger?
When I was in high school.
And did you like it?
A couple years ago, yeah. No, it was kind of annoying. It was
right.
Like you got this thing in your mouth and you were like, I'm going to swallow this and choke on it and die.
Probably not, but it's very uncomfortable. You can't talk, you can't breathe. And that's pretty much the state of the art of historical mouth guards. In fact, they were really started in 1950 by the American Dental Association because Life magazine wrote an article about Notre Dame football players breaking their teeth. So they came up with a mouth guard to keep them from doing that. And 73 years later, we still have that same mouth guard. But PowerPlus Mouthguard is on the lower teeth, which is the most important thing about this physiology technology. And it's also important how thick it is. And the main thing, though, is physiologic jaw position. Each one of us have a unique, personal to us physiologic jaw position.
Really?
That's so important, right? And that's really how we kind of came to be because, again, we were talking about temporomandibular joint syndrome. And in order to eradicate and cure that, you must put your jaw in that physiologic jaw position. So Mouthguard came out of working with TMJ patients and discovering that physiologic jaw position has a positive effect on your body.
Wow. That reminds me, years ago with my mortgage company, we had a guy who had TMJ and he had some surgery done and he claimed he couldn't make his mortgage payment for 6 months because he was bedridden and disabled from it. And the loan company wouldn't buy it. I'm not sure that's a full disability. I don't know. Is it? I've had TMJ really through my life.
It can be.
Really? Wow. There you go.
I've had maybe 2,000 patients over the years. And I remember back a patient who came in, and I asked her, you could just tell she was in pain, constant pain, headaches, migraines. Her jaw, she couldn't open wide enough to bite into a hamburger. She just was constantly in pain. And I said, in a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being what you think heaven would be like, and 10, you want to put a gun to your head, where are you? And she said, I'm 9.5.
Holy crap.
And her eyes were dark, droopy, or she looked like she was in pain all the time. And she had, come to find out, she had 9 jaw surgeries by an oral surgeon to correct her TMJ. And when I took the panographic x-ray, I noticed that she did not have a ball and socket. She had splinters and a socket. And so that was why it was so painful. I had to send her for 2 more jaw surgeries to have her jaw joint replaced. There was a person in Chicago that had had the only FDA approved jaw replacement.
Holy crap.
And then I had to rebuild all of her teeth. I had to crown all of her teeth in her physiologic jaw position.
Huh.
And when we were all done, I asked her, now, where are you, 0 to 10? And she said 2. And I was overjoyed because, 11 jaw surgeries, your muscles don't even work right, And to get them to a point where she was happy, she didn't look like she was, just in chronic pain. And so, I mean, this is what you deal with. It takes over your whole body.
So is my jawline from TMJ? Is this what contributes to my resting bitch face? Everyone tells me I have.
That could be one of the factors, one of the diagnosing factors.
There you go. How many people in America have TMJ? How prevalent is that?
Well, there's been estimated that there's 25 million people that have migraines.
Wow.
And migraines are kind of a catch-all phrase. Any chronic headache that lasts a long time and recurring a lot, people throw in migraines. There's lots of different headaches. And when your jaw isn't in the right position, it creates fatigue in your muscles. It creates lactic acid that overworks your muscles, and you have these migraines. So 95% of all migraines also have a jaw problem. So if you take those 25 million, that 95%, those people are going to need to have their jaw put in physiologic jaw position as well. So there's a lot of people that have TMJ.
Yeah, I had it. I think it was really bad in my 30s or 40s, and it would pop. I could pop it, and I'd be, I just sit and pop it. I do have what's the ringing in the ears thing?
It's tinnitus.
Tinnitus, and I have it really bad in that right ear where the TMJ seems to be offset in my right side. Are those two connected at all? And
those are the symptoms.
Really?
Ringing in your ear, popping and clicking, tingling of the fingers, neck pain, back pain, shoulder pain. It can even cause you to lean a different way, get out of balance, and cause your feet to hurt. So TMJ can hurt you from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet.
Maybe you just solve what's always been wrong with me, at least physically. My psychologist says there's no help for me mentally, but that's a different story. That's a different
I'm not
doctor.
that kind of doctor.
I'm not that kind of doctor. So does this mouth guard, what does it help? It clearly helps TMJ. What are some of the different applications for people out there that might be suffering from some sort of ailment that it can help them with?
Well, TMJ is 24-hour-a-day malady. So in order to diagnose and treat it and correct it permanently, you have to treat it 24 hours a day. So the PowerPlus Mouthguard, although you could wear it 24 hours a day, what you need is a hard plastic mouth appliance, because you want to mimic your teeth so that your brain can function correctly in balancing out your bite with proprioception and pressure feedback. And so you need that hard plastic. So that we call that an orthotic. And so, kind of like if you need an orthotics for your feet, same thing with your jaw. If your jaw's not in the right position, then you're gonna need to, let's say, correct the deficiency that you have. So one of the main problems with TMJ is that you overclose your jaw. You're biting down too far. So if you look at yourself and grit your teeth in the mirror, normal jaw relationship should be just a millimeter overlap and a millimeter space in between. But when you can't see your lower teeth, your muscles are over contracted, and it's a known phenomenon that when you overwork your muscles, they're going to hurt. And so when you're doing that 24 hours a day, it's going to hurt a lot and sometimes spin you off into a very painful episode of migraines. So, but that's TMJ. So when you play sports, you still need your physiologic jaw position, and you get some great benefits when you use physiologic jaw position to play sports.
And so there was something I introduced in your bio too, where it can help save you from concussions and different things and hits and stuff you might take. It turns out that physiologic jaw position is really important because physiologic jaw position. You're going to envision the socket and the ball of the jaw, and when you're open too wide, it's going to roll your ball up against the front part of your skull, and like a electric conduit, it's going to drag that G-force up to your brain. And conversely, if you're over close, it's going to roll it back up against the skull in the back and do the same thing. So when it's right in the center, that G-force can't jump the gap, and so it has to be dissipated away from your brain. And what we've discovered is that when you have a blow to the head, jaw, chin, there's a 0.2% chance of having a concussion, which is almost zero. Wow. That's pretty amazing.
18-year study so far. We've had 9 concussions with PowerPlus Mouthguard in 7,000 athletes. So that's 0.2%. So that's number one. And number two is when your nerve endings go to your muscles, and it's called a synapse, where they come together and direct your muscles to contract. There's a certain percentage, and there was a study done at Wayne State University, biomedical engineering, and they showed a 16.8% increase in strength immediately when your jaw goes into its physiologic jaw position. So in other words, you can go to the bench press, put on your max, add 17% to it, and you can lift it right away.
That's what I need.
Yeah.
Go to the gym.
Gives you great speaking ability.
So how do you know if your jaw's in the right physio position? How do you know if you're doing it right?
Well, there's a measurement. And so when you order your PowerPlus Mouthguard, there's a little gauge, and there's a target number of when you measure your gum on the top to the gum on the bottom when your teeth are clenched. And so if you fall within this red box, you're too far over closed. Your jaw's too far over closed, and so you're getting disruption to your muscle fibers. If you're in the blue box, you don't have as much disruption. But if you take a bell curve of all the athletes, everybody, the middle is the measurement is 15 millimeters. So what you want is that relationship where there's a 1 millimeter overlap, 1 millimeter over jet. In other words, the space in between there. That's a perfect bite. And so that's the easiest way to determine if you can get into physiologic jaw position. It's just to measure. It's called your vertical dimension. When you gum to gum, the perfect number is 19. So that's how you can really tell. And then, of course, if you are in a bad bite, then it's all relative. So the deeper your bite is, the more weak you are. The most improved strength increase I ever have seen was in a guy that had a really bad bite, and he increased his strength by 62%.
Really, 62%?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
That's a lot.
That's probably the whole reason I can't lift more than 15 pounds at the gym.
Well, if you put yourself in a PowerPlus Mouthguard, then went to the gym, you'd be able to lift 25 pounds.
Wow. Now you can tell that just by looking at my jaw?
Yeah, that's the cool thing is that
Wow.
I've actually worked
I've been
with
doing this for a long time.
Teams, and I can look at their player that they want to acquire, and I can say, no, that guy's
jaw's all messed up.
He's gonna have a problem. One interesting thing that I learned when I was going through the research and development is that there was a study done at Notre Dame on some football players, and way back in 1980, they didn't really know about physiologic jaw position, but there was an appliance that they called a MORA, which stands for mandibular repositioning appliance. And they found that three things occurred when a person wore a MORA. They had increased strength, increased stamina,
Wow.
and less knee injuries. Now that really shocked me that at the time, back in 2000, I thought, how could a mouth guard help you have less knee injuries? What would that have to do? But it's all about muscular balance. And when all your muscles are balanced and functioning at 100%, you can take more punishment. You can, you're lined up. You function better. And this is what really kind of spurred me on to say, I've got to find out more about this physiologic jaw position and what it can do.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. Has anyone ever healed their tinnitus? Tinnitus?
Yes, actually, yes, because again, your ear opening is like right here by the socket, and the ball and the socket are right there. So when your joint swells up, because it's being functioning in the wrong position, it will inflame your ear and cause you to have that ringing sound. So I have had many cases where once we got it corrected, once we got them back into physiologic jaw position, the tinnitus or tinnitus disappeared. Also, popping and clicking. I was taught in dental school that you could never cure TMJ, and that it was what it was, and if you could get a bite appliance, a night guard, and it helped, great. If it doesn't, there's nothing you can do. And so that was another factor that got me to pursue something different, because that's just not how I think. I can't be your doctor and say, well, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on.
Well,
that kind of thing.
I'm glad you're making these innovations. So I'm looking at your website, and there's several different things in your shop that people can get. It looks like there's the PowerPlus Mouthguard. It's kind of a normal standard one. And then there's the PowerPlus Elite, the Max Professional, and the PowerPlus Sleep appliance. Tell us what these different things are and what they do, please.
Well, the sleep appliance is, I made it because, again, this physiologic jaw position is really important. But the thing that you need in sleep appliance is you need to bring your jaw forward. And that's really important. So if you and I were out walking down the street and you collapsed and weren't breathing and I needed to help you, what would I do? I wouldn't pull out a CPAP machine that I had in a suitcase. I would move your jaw forward and I'd tip your head back so your airway would be open. And that's what you need in sleep apnea, because your airway closes and you can't breathe in. You stop breathing, and your brain doesn't like that, so it violently causes you to move so that you open your airway and snort and snore and make foul noises because of that. But if you can bring your jaw forward, you can sleep normally. And this is what the CPAP machine does, basically, with positive air. It's a air pressurized device that actually blows open your airway every time you're respirating. It just blows air, close, blows air, close. So that's why it helps. But you're tethered to this machine,
The Darth Vader mask, I like to call it.
Right, but if you just bring your jaw forward, you can breathe normally. So I thought it logical for me to make an appliance that people can try and use. Sometimes if you're way overweight or other anatomical factors, moving your jaw forward doesn't always help, but it can, and it cuts the cost down, and it's a lot easier to put something in your pocket and fly to Paris than have to carry an extra suitcase with your CPAP machine.
Oh yeah, I mean, my mom's got a CPAP, and I don't know that she sleeps any better, and it's wearing the mask, and I can't sleep that way. Now, it appears to me that it's customized to your teeth pattern. All of these different ones, except for the first two.
The first one is one that I designed so that any person, any kid could order one, follow the fitting instructions, and do it at home. They didn't have to have a dentist or a professional do it for them. And this is what it looks like. It comes in this box. It has 3 parts to it. It has the shell. It has, you can see probably faintly, this little horseshoe-shaped clear mechanism. You need extra material. If your bite is over closed, you're going to need extra material, so you have to add that in. And then this is your measuring gauge. Oh, wow. So if you just follow the instructions, if you need the material, you put it in, you warm it up, and you take it out when it's warm. You put it on your lower teeth. You bring your lips together like you're going to kiss your mom, and swallow 5 times. And that's the key. We don't want to know where you can bite or how hard you can bite. We don't want you to do that. We want your autonomic or involuntary nervous system to take over and swallow. And you don't control your swallowing muscles. You don't even think about it. You just do it. And so when you swallow, your jaw gets positioned in all angles into your physiologic jaw position. And that's how it works. Once it cools down, now you're always in that position when you're playing your sport or doing any physical activity, and you're never out of it. You're always in that physiologic jaw position. So that one is something that everybody can do. The other ones are for higher end athletes, higher levels. They're more custom. They're made in a pressure machine, so it fits you perfectly. It's very comfortable, very nice, and it's thinner, but it takes more effort and time to make. The Max Pro is one that I make for a professional athlete. That it's more similar to a TMJ appliance, but it is absolutely precise. I have to meet with you. I have to run you through 3 hours of diagnosis. I got to use a 3D printer to print it up and make it fit perfectly. But it is awesome what it does for you, because it can give you all of your strength that you have in your body, and there's no blockage.
Wow. This is pretty amazing stuff. I never really knew it was that big of a deal, but evidently it is. And being able to prevent, concussions. So, should anybody with kids that are starting into sports and stuff be picking up at least those entry level things so they can, keep from getting concussions at a young age? Everyone should.
This isn't, you look like you're my same age. So
55?
I'm 65. So when I got a phone call when I was 15, I didn't reach in my pocket and pull out my iPhone. I went to the wall and I picked up the phone. It was tethered by a long cord, and I stood there and talked with you until I was done, and then I had to hang it back up. And even better yet, my grandmother lived on a farm in southern Idaho, and she had a party line. So
yeah, I remember
I'd have to call her, and then somebody else was already talking. So I had to sit there and listen to them talk and wait until they were done before my grandma could pick up. So now, I mean, this is what we're talking about with mouth guards, 1950s.
Wow.
they had this mouth guard, and it did protect you from banging your teeth together. But I mean, they had no face mask, they had no protection, you know, and this is what we have now. 2023, we have this 1950s mouth guard, and we think it's the perfect mouth guard, and really, it hurts you. It makes it makes your jaw not in the right position, so it hurts you by performance. You're not as strong. You're weak. You get tired. You get want to come out of the game because you're so tired. It puts your jaw in a position that balances or sends G forces to your brain. So my answer is get out of the 50s. And
the 50s, damn it. I wasn't even born in the 50s, but I'll try.
Every you know, it's just every mouth guard out there, and it doesn't matter if they're the pacifier, which is absolutely the worst mouth guard anybody could ever wear, because all it is a wafer, and it's a wafer that's made by a company, and it's all the same thickness for every person. And we know that every person is different. Every person has a different anatomy. So you have this wafer that it has fangs on it, or you can put diamonds on it or whatever. But usually you end up sitting on the bench looking at the diamonds in your pacifier mouth guard because you got a concussion and you can't play.
Yeah,
so
a concussion will mess you up.
Every person. I mean, I went to a combine, and I took 5 guys out of the combine, and I tested one guy to do the broad jump, and he jumped 7 more inches.
Really?
With his PowerPlus Mouthguard. I took a guy, and he was doing the bench press. It's 250 pounds. You do as many as you can. He did 10 more than he'd ever done. Another guy jumped 1.5 inches higher in the vertical jump, and the last guy ran the 40 0.2 faster than he had ever run it before. And that's because he's balanced. He's got 16.8% increase in strength. Who knows? He may have had 25% because of his bite. All these things that we don't even know are there as long as we get ourselves corrected. And that's really the whole crux of the matter. I got a guy who mows his lawn with it. He's got 2 acres. He likes to do it for exercise. And he says, I don't get tired anymore. Mowing my lawn like I used to. I used to go mow my lawn and then go take a nap because I was so tired after I did it. Now I can go golfing.
Well, that's my question for you. I mean, if you're like a normal person, you know, I have TMJ, and probably sleep apnea. I get told that a lot. But you know, I don't play any heavy duty sports. I'm 55, man. I'm not looking to get a concussion. I've already got enough brain damage as it is. So, I mean, is this something that I would need to wear like a couple hours a day to correct, or do I need to wear it 24/7? Or
when we're talking about TMJ, your bite is 24/7. So, the TMJ appliance that we use to test and find your physiologic jaw position, you are required to wear it 24/7, except when you eat or brush your teeth. But getting back to your question. There's a lot of people who ride bikes, who mountain bike, who road bike, that are our age, that play, you know, recreational basketball, or some guys play hockey at the local ice rink. All of these need PowerPlus Mouthguard technology. You'll play better. You'll be safer. You can get a concussion. You can get a concussion walking out and slipping on your stoop in the wintertime.
Sure.
You know? That doesn't mean you should, you know, have a PowerPlus Mouthguard. If you had to go out and get your paper, you better put your mouthguard in, you know. But the point is, yeah, we're not Tom Brady, but we we do stuff. We horse around. We ride bikes. And it would benefit you if you do those types of things. Play softball.
There you go. And so people can order these off your website, and I guess just the one, they've got to come visit with you, the Ultra Pro one. The Max
Pro, I have to meet with you. Mm-hmm. The middle one, I made it so that I can send you a kit, mm-hmm. and you can take your own molds and you send them back to me, and then I can fabricate it and send it back to you. The important thing about that one is that although it's not difficult, you do have to mix the molding material the right way so that you can give me the correct, accurate mold of your jaw. If you don't mix it right, it'll come back to me, and I won't be able to use it. And I won't be able to use it because it distorts, and your jaw will be distorted, and it won't fit.
Yeah, that'll be worse off, right?
I have a video, and I show you how to do it. And if you follow the video, it's not difficult. Mm-hmm. You can teach a monkey to do it.
That's what my second grade teacher told me, but I still flunked second grade. So there's that. Well,
you should have eaten more bananas then.
Yeah, that's probably half the problem right there. That, and I was flinging my shit. So there you go. When have we talked about that's important about the product you've innovated and offer people?
Are you asking how much it costs, or?
I mean, if you want to tell us how much it costs, yeah. I mean,
well, you can go on the website.
What else have we covered? Yeah.
Yeah. The important thing, and I want people to understand, is that this is a new discovery in body physiology and neurophysiology. It's a true body mechanism and a true principle that we did not understand until around the year 2000. And I'll just give you an example of really how I was energized into really kind of developing this technology and finding out exactly how it worked. I had about 5 really debilitated TMJ patients. They'd been to every doctor. Nobody could help them. And I couldn't help them with what I was taught in dental school. It was frustrating. But I so happened to run across a gentleman, a dentist. He'd been working on TMJ for 35 years, solely doing TMJ. He was in Seattle. He went to all the dentists in Seattle and said, I don't want your patients. I don't want to do general dentistry. I just want to improve the treatment for TMJ. So send me all of your bad TMJ patients, and I'll send them back to you when I'm done with them. And he would tell the patients, I won't hurt you in any way, but you got to do exactly what I say. And he basically discovered the mechanism behind TMJ. And so I went to him, I learned from him, I came back, I cured those 5 people. And I come from a physiologic family. My dad was an exercise physiologist. He was a sports nut, and so were we. And so our police chief and fire chief here in Traverse City got on the USA team powerlifting, and he was 65 years old. So he's in the 65 and older category. Crap. And he lifted to win the national championship for that age group. He lifted 398 pounds on the bench press. And of course, up here in a small town, they wrote an article in the paper, and he said in there, I want to go to Prague, where the international competition is, in 6 weeks, and I want to break the world record, which is 435 pounds. And I've never done that ever. I've never lifted that more than 398. And so I, being me, I said, I can get this guy. All these patients I worked with keep telling me they're stronger. So I'm going to have faith in this mechanism, which I know is a true principle. I just can't prove it. And I'm going to call him up. So I looked in the white pages and I called him up, and I said, I don't want you to think I'm a quack doctor or anything, but I can get you your world record tonight. And he's like, okay. And what do I got to do? I said, you got to come over here. I got to make you a quick and dirty mouth guard. And then you got to go do your workout and tell me what happens. And I'm going to say that from what I know, you can probably lift 25% more, which would put you at 480. And he was like all over it. So he came over. I made it. His teeth were worse than I thought they were. I looked him up and I saw his face and I said, oh, this is the perfect specimen. So I made him a mouth guard. He went there. Sure enough, when he was done, he called me and left me a message I couldn't understand, but I could tell he was just so excited. I called him back. He said he lifted 455 pounds and quit because he thought it was going to get hurt. But he said, I can do more. I know I can do more. And so I said, well, what I'd like you to do is just keep track. I know you guys keep logs of what you did each day and that kind of thing. I just like to have that for my data. And so over the next 6 weeks before Prague, he got up to 525.
Holy
He
crap.
went over to Prague, broke the world record at 455 and held that record for 10 years until he was 75 years old.
All with just getting your mouth in the right position.
I knew that I knew that it was a correct principle, and I just needed to figure out how to make it so that everybody could harness that on their own body, and that's kind of the generation of how it happened over all the time that I've been doing it.
There you go. Well, give us your final pitch out as we go out to tell people how to pick up your services and your products and order them up online.
You can go on to PowerPlusMouthguard.com and you can find all the useful information that you need. You can purchase a mouth appliance for you. And one thing I just really want to emphasize is if you're a parent and you put your child athlete in their physiologic jaw position, they have a 99.8% chance of not getting a concussion. And there are 10,800 concussions that happen every day. So your child will not be one of those concussion patients. So this is a new technology. It's so important. Every parent needs to know this.
Most definitely. And I'm glad we've had you on to educate people. Now you've got me thinking about my TMJ and my tinnitus and other things and my brain damage, but that's probably from something else. Thank you very much, Dr. Michael Hutchison, from being on the show with us today. Did we get your .com one this time? Let's get a plug-in for that.
PowerPlusMouthguard.com.
There you go. And I imagine they can reach out to you if they have questions and all that good stuff as well.
Absolutely. You can. The email address is powerplusmouthguard@gmail.com. Mm-hmm. And I answer them all and answer every question I can.
There you go. Oh, thank you very much for coming on, Doctor. Thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, and Chris Voss 1 on the Tickety Talkety. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. And we'll see you guys next time.